I'm Kutter Callaway, and I'm an associate professor of theology and culture. So in the current context of higher ed and church ministry, people often ask me, why on earth would I want to study and get a PhD in something like theology and culture? And a lot of that strikes at the heart of what it means to pursue a terminal degree, but also who it is that God has called each of us as individuals and then as a broader community to be. When I think about the word vocation, for example, I'm kind of a film guy and I'm interested in pop culture. And I can't help but think of Toy Story and the animated kids film where the owner of Woody, the little cowboy, writes his name on the sole of Woody's shoe. And what's interesting about that is this term vocation is a Latin term that doesn't just mean calling or some sort of voice or call. It also actually means a kind of naming. And there's something that happens where we pursue our vocation as the specific name that God has written on our souls, right? And I think that's a really important part of what it means to pursue any sort of academic journey, but especially some sort of terminal degree like a PhD. And that is that we're after the thing that God has named us. The way in which God has uniquely named us and marked us, both as individuals, but then also as we as individuals contribute to the people of God in the world. But it's also something else. It's not just the naming, it is that calling. And a lot of times you could think of a PhD especially as a kind of credentialing or some certificate essentially that allows you to go and do some job. Like it's a hurdle that you have to cross just so that you can go be and involve yourself in this task called professor. But if that's the biggest and most robust notion you have of why you'd pursue a PhD, it's actually pretty reduced and limited. I pursued a PhD in theology and culture for no reason having to do with becoming a professor, even though that's eventually what I became. But instead, it was a response to a call, this sort of elemental call that I sensed that if I didn't do this, if I didn't walk down this journey, I wouldn't be fully who it is that God created me to be. And so a big part of what we do in terms of mentoring, of developing students in our doctoral programs is encouraging them and giving them space to grow in the way that they might respond to that call, the way that they might shape their lives in response to that call. And it looks different for every person. But at the core of it, what it is asking that question of who is it that God has named me to be, and how is it that I might participate in the ongoing work of God's Spirit in the world?